This is a Laza Music exclusive.
I really got into acting because my dad was a stage actor, and he did a lot of like auditions and stuff when I was really, really young. I'm talking like 3 or 4 years old. And so he sort of took me into an agency one day, and they're like, oh, she's so cute, like we want to sign her up to do some modeling. So I started off like baby modeling and things like that. And I remember I booked my first movie when I was 5, and we filmed it in Iowa. It was like a time piece and took place in like way back in the day.
What's some more so, Mama?
You love words, don't you? Always asking what this means, what that means. Morsel means a little itty bit. You know what? I think you're going to be a writer. Yes.
So that was my very first memory of really doing some serious acting. Like, that movie was a real role that I had to play, so that was really fun. Working with Future was really, really amazing. We went down to Atlanta. We had like the whole ATL experience, went to a bunch of really awesome restaurants. We went out to the strip club and were like throwing money and did the whole like Atlanta thing, you know? So it was a really fun environment, and we actually created some really great music. In the studio, he works similar to how I do, where he just like kind of goes in, says whatever comes to mind right away, and then later on kind of goes back in and finishes the lyrics, I suppose. So it was really fun to work with him. It was like a cool experience, and I feel like we are very similar in how we create music. The song that we created, it's kind of like vibey, and it's really interesting because it has this kind of crazy juxtaposition between my part, which is a little bit more like sensual and, you know, vibey, and his part, which is like super high energy and like he keeps it gangsta. So I really love that song. I really find inspiration from a lot of things that I go through personally, personal experience, and then as well, you know, experiences that I hear about maybe from friends or from people that I know really closely. I like to put myself in other people's mind states and kind of just imagine where they would come from. I don't want to be like too specific, but probably one of my most specific experiences is just like my last relationship. I used a lot of, you know, inspiration from like the different feelings that I was going through and stuff like that to just write from that perspective, I guess. But a lot of writing is very much like it's storytelling. It's telling a story. So not all of it is like literal. And that's the funny thing about music is people always take it very literally. They think that everything you sing about is everything that you're going through. And interestingly enough, like it's definitely along the lines of things that I'm going through, but I definitely kind of embellish on things, you know? I really spent a lot of, you know, my first projects all alone in my room, creating them totally by myself. So to be able to transition to working with other people and collaborating with other producers and artists, it was definitely like a learning process for me, getting like acquainted and getting them acquainted with who I was as an artist, because they maybe didn't know at first. So one of my favorite people that I've worked with has been from Sade, and he, you know, just being part of that band, has been through so many amazing experiences and done so much amazing stuff that to listen to him speak about all of his experiences was really inspirational and really like mind-blowing for me. So I love that. He told me specifically about one time that he was in Rio, and he said when you go to Rio, they all sing the words. You know, like sometimes you go to different places and the people, they may know the words, but they're not like into the performance. But he said in Rio, everyone sings along. So you can stop singing and the whole crowd will carry it for you. So I thought that was pretty amazing to visualize. I produced some stuff on the album, mostly like interludes and like maybe like outro songs and things that are more on like the creative aspect. So there's definitely some Tinashe production on there, and still a lot of the songs, or a few of the songs, were made in my home studio. So I definitely like produced all the vocals, mixed it, did all that kind of stuff still in my home studio, which is really fun for me because I feel like it bridges the gap between the mixtapes and the album really well. It's interesting because when I was in school, I really maybe didn't fit in with everybody so well because I was in the professional, you know, entertainment industry, and kids didn't really understand that at the time, and so kids were kind of really mean to me. And yeah, there's definitely been a shift with the people who are my peers in how, you know, they interact with me maybe now online and on Facebook and things like that. They're like, I'm so proud of you and things like that, which is, it's funny, but I mean, it's cool. It means obviously that we're more mature now, and that's awesome. But I think the people who are really mean to me, like really, really bad, have not yet approached me on some like, hey, you want to hang out or anything like that, because I think they and I both know that like that would never happen. But it's still fun. It's good, I think, to move on from things. I gave RCA a huge list of people that I wanted to work with on this album, and I've actually worked with nearly all of the people who are on my wish list, which is really, really, really amazing. But I think probably the most surprising person on my list was... Let me think. I think probably the most surprising person that I worked with was Boi-1da. I really didn't know what to expect going in, but I flew up to Toronto to work with him, and the first time we were in the studio, like, we didn't necessarily make anything that was like mind-blowing, but we definitely had like a cool connection because he's a really dope person, and you know, he's a really nice guy. So we stayed in touch, and he kept like sending me beats over the internet and stuff like that, and I was working on them in my home studio, and that's actually how Vulnerable came about. And there's a couple more songs on the album that were made in that exact same way, so that's fun. Outside of music, I think my greatest ambitions are to win an Oscar. I would like to definitely get back into acting at some point after I've really, really established myself as a musician.
Who's this? This is Mrs. Brown, and she's got a lovely daughter.
My daughter has memorized all of your songs.
Why did she do that?
I made her do it. That's why.
What do you think of that, Jack? Used to be she'd be sweating away in some factory underage. Now we got child labor laws. All these kids, we took them out of the factories, put them in the streets. How about that? Anyway, she wants to sing for you. She wants to sing her little heart out. Go ahead and let her. Go ahead, darling.
Come gather round, people, wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you'll sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Charlie Harper. This is Jake. We live next door, right, Jake?
I'm Jake. Hi. I'm Celeste. I'm Jake.
Honey, is that the cable guy?
No, Dad. It's our neighbors.
So I hope to do a role that really challenges me, and people can be like, wow, I didn't know she could do that too. So that's definitely on my list. And then another thing outside of music, I'm Bob, where my dad is from, and, you know, meet a lot of people out there. I have a really strong support system out there right now, so that would really be amazing to connect with them and connect personally with the culture. And then probably another thing, I hope someday to like get married and like do all that fun stuff. Eventually. There's definitely no rush. If I could have one message to the world, it would be this piece of advice. It would be, if you want to be an artist, you always have to follow your instincts. You have to listen to your own personal instincts. Don't let anybody tell you anything. Don't let them tell you that this is the way to go, or that is the way to go, or you should be more like this, or you should be more like that, because really at the end of the day, nobody knows better than you what your music should sound like. So you should definitely always follow your instincts. I'm Tinashe, and you're watching lazamusic.com.
This is a Laza Music exclusive.